Hey everybody, my name is Josh, joshallmusic.com. This is Shavasana Kitty YouTube channel, and today's lesson or talk or philosophy um, is about um, being a working musician and um, some basic guiding principles that have um, sort of influenced how I do things to be what I'm going to define as a successful musician, meaning um, I, you know, pay my mortgage, my car payments, my heating bills, my electricity, my internet, my phone, um, my various other debts, um, with income that I make as a musician. And let's kind of talk about the first guiding principle is return on investment. Okay, so anything that I do in my life that is an investment in my music, I look at it in terms of how long will it take before it pays me back. And so we'll begin with kind of my first decision was to become a music educator. Okay. Um, and I didn't do this as a fallback job. Like I wasn't like, well, I'm gonna, try to make it as a touring musician. And if that doesn't work out, I'm gonna be a teacher. I made the conscious decision to go to music school to get a Bachelor of Music Education degree. Um, I'm a classical guitarist, but I had my focus was in choral music. And I have a lot of experience playing in bands. And so when I graduated from the Ithaca College Conservatory of Music, I had a teaching license in New York State, and I was able to get a teaching license in New Hampshire, and then started teaching, got a job teaching at a middle school in New Hampshire. And I've been teaching at that same middle school for 29 years. So when you think about your middle school music teacher, that was me. I'm the choral director. I direct jazz bands. I direct concert bands. I do like audio engineering. I teach guitar. I teach general music. I teach all kinds of things. And that's a conscious decision. I wanted first of all, I like teaching, but I like teaching music. Like, I'm not a science teacher, I'm not a math teacher, I don't teach English. I teach music. I teach kids to perform, I teach kids to play. I've started thousands of kids on the guitar, my personal favorite instrument. And some of the kids I teach, they've gone on to be, touring the world or doing whatever they do. Fantastic, right? I'm not the sole reason that they're doing those things. They have their own drive. But it might have been some aspect of my class that made them think, oh, I should become a musician. There's some juice in that. I enjoy that. Okay. Teaching at the public school gives me a certain amount of stability, something that I know a lot of musicians wish they had. Um, I have a predictable paycheck. I have health insurance and dental insurance. I have a retirement plan and I have a retirement pension. These are all things that any professional would want and would demand out of a professional career, especially something that you have to be licensed to do. Okay. Which to teach, you have to be licensed. You can't just kind of have chops. You've got to go through a process and earn your way there. And I've done that. And I've stayed for 29 years. Now, it's not the only thing that I do. When I started teaching, I also started teaching privately. So I went to my local guitar shop and I said, hey, do you got any space for another guitar teacher? I'd love to teach some private lessons during the week. And they did. And I started teaching there. I also taught at people's houses. I would drive to people's houses and people would drive to me, and then we would do lessons. And eventually, I was I got to the place where I didn't really need the guitar shop anymore. I was a known quantity in the area. People knew who I was. They knew the quality of teacher that I was, and then would seek me out for lessons. I didn't need to drive to homes anymore. People would do that, and that's part of the benefit of being consistent and having a good reputation, along with playing teaching, right? I would play gigs. I have classical guitar. So at any given time, I have about 3 hours of classical guitar music under my fingers. And so that means that if I get asked to play a wedding or play a rehearsal dinner thing and a cocktail hour or blah, 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 or a restaurant or, someone's party or art gallery open, whatever thing that you might need classical guitar music for, I'm a person that people can call. And there's a fee that I'm willing to do that for. Um, and then along with that, I might play the odd pickup jazz or classic rock kind of gig. And then my wife and I and a hand drummer friend, we do kirtan, which is part of the yoga practice. And we do that. And then I write, record, and release music. That's mine. And and that's kind of the whole picture of all of the different things that I do that allow me to, well, maybe not thrive, but be buoyant as a musician. And certainly the lion's share of my income as a musician comes from teaching people music. And I think that's great. I think it's wonderful to help someone go from I don't understand to understand and share this um, this passion for playing for music that I have. When I am doing anything though with music, I always think about it in terms of return on investment. If I make an album, I make a solo guitar album, for example, right? There's a certain cost that it's going to have, right? If I do my own recording because I've studied audio engineering on my own through Berkeley College of Music and that sort of thing, um, if I decide that I'm going to record the album myself, then it's really my time that I'm investing in doing the thing, and the actual overhead cost is pretty low. But if I go to a studio and I record it there, then I have to take into consideration how much I paid, the engineer, the studio time, whatever, if I pay a mastering engineer, whatever it is per song, have it done. And so that becomes like what I call the ramp for releasing the music. That's the money that I have to make back before I break even in my investment in the songs and such that I write. And so it makes me think that when I see musicians promoting their brand new album and they're sending you to Spotify or Apple Music or something where you stream it, I think that it's not the greatest decision in terms of recouping your costs. And it's certainly not going to be the best decision in terms of creating a profitable album release. And this is what I mean by that. Let's say um, I'm a fairly unknown artist and I spend three to $5,000 making a record. That's not a lot, but you know, it's an amount. And then I tell everyone that I'm so excited, check out my new release on Spotify. And let's say I'm able to drive like, I don't know, 100,000 people to Spotify. And they listen to all 10 songs on the album. And that's a million streams because it's a 10-song album and 100,000 people will listen to it one time. That's $3,000. I had to drive 100,000 people to Spotify to listen to my album one time to make $3,000. When I was younger, I would hand make CDs and I would play at places like Borders, or I would play at places like libraries, other kinds of situations. I would do recitals and that kind of thing. And I always had a CD for sale, always. And people would happily buy. And if I figure, if let's say 50 people were in the room and 10%, only five people, right? Isn't that 10% of 50 is five? Bought the album, right? I'd be like, okay, so I made an extra 50 bucks. Whoop-de-doo. Not great, you know, better off doing a guitar lesson, right? But it's bonus because I had this physical thing, okay? If I drove 100,000 people through my advertising and social media and all that other stuff to Spotify, what if I drove that same 100,000 people to a place like Bandcamp? They could listen to the album for free. And let's say 10% of them choose to buy the album. That would be $100,000. Well, that's a way better payday than $3,000. And for you to keep making that $3,000, you have to keep driving people to Spotify every month. How long, how many months does it take for you? Now, in all honesty, Bandcamp takes, 15%. It's going to take $15,000 off of that 100 grand, right? You're going to make 85,000 and you're going to split that. But if you're a solo artist like me, you keep it all. You're paid one, right? You know that Spotify isn't giving you 3 grand, you know, they keep some too. And you just invested all that time and all that energy, and who got paid first? Spotify did, not you. You're the musician. You did the work. You should get paid first. So drive them to the place that can pay you first. Do that. And maybe that first 100,000, that first, got you there, right? Climbed your ramp, you broke even, you profited. And now you have an actual income that you can do something with. So if I'm a new musician and I'm starting to do my 100 or my 50-mile local loop, my 100-mile local loop, and I'm producing my record and I've got my album out, I would absolutely have physical copies available at every show. But I would also drive people direct to a place that they can buy it because people will. And if they can pay more than just the cost of the album, like they have the option to give you more because they really like you and they want to support you and what you do, they will. Be okay with that. It's your art, it's your music. You know, I what I couldn't imagine doing a private guitar lesson with somebody and having to split the money that the person gave me. It'd be ridiculous. I mean, with the exception of teaching at the guitar shop, where I had a small fee for the room that I was in. So, because they have to pay rent for the building and stuff. But it was a very small amount. And it was per lesson. I made the lion's share of the money. And that's how it should be. And so if you're a musician, think about what you're doing. Think about it in terms of return on investment. Is it worth your time and energy to do this gig? And if you're going to drive somebody to a place to listen to your music, drive them to a place where they have the option to buy it and own it. That way you're advertising for you and not for a streaming service. Anyway, that's my advice. And I do have a new album out. It is on Bandcamp. It is called Inhale Exhale. It'll be linked in the description. But I didn't do this talk to drive you there. But if you like this talk and you want to hear what I sound like when I play, go there and check it out for free. No harm, no foul. If you like my content, subscribe. If you want a more personal contact, sign up for my newsletter at joshhallmusic.com. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.